everyone. Welcome back to another edition of Movies That Move We. Today we are talking about The Upside, featuring Kevin Hart and Bryan Cranston. So, this film is actually based on a true story. The book is called The Upside, and it was written by Abdel Sellou. Abdel was, what was he? Home health aide, to Philippe Pozzo de Borgo, wealthy man who had an accident that left him as a paraplegic. Did I say that right? Okay, good. All right. It left him as a paraplegic. So in this film, the characters are turned into Phil, played by Bryan Cranston, and Del Scott, played by Kevin Hart. All right, so the basic story is Phil needed an in-home caretaker. He was already kind of depressed because of the accident, and it left him completely disabled. He can only move from about the neck up. And shortly after the accident, his wife passed away from cancer. So he didn't feel like he really had anything left to live for. And he specifically had a DNR order, and an order for no extraordinary action to be taken to preserve his life. And if you don't know what a DNR is, it's do not resuscitate. At the beginning of the movie, there's a few brief scenes at the beginning that give you kind of key points in the story. And one of them was where he told his assistant, as they were leaving the hospital, his assistant, Yvonne, I told you no extraordinary actions. And she kind of said, I don't care. You're going to live, in a nutshell. All right. So what's so significant about this story? I'll let you chime in.
Honestly, I feel like it touched on I don't know, I feel like it touched on a lot of different stuff. I really liked the contrast, or what I really noticed about it was there was a contrast of these two men from totally different walks of life coming together and kind of learning something from one another. You know, you have this very well-to-do guy that, yeah, he's in a really like tough situation where he's going through depression and even like some actual physical health issues. And then you have this man that he's also going through probably some mental health issues and demons of his own.
Yeah, transitional.
Yeah.
He's just coming out of prison on a weapons charge,
Mm-hmm.
and he has to put his life back together.
And then like for him, it's like he's basically just trying to create like a better life for himself overall. So it's like he's going through this challenge of kind of having to evolve. And then you have this man that's kind of just like, I'm ready to be out of here because I'm sad and depressed.
And he has everything.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, it was really nice to see that contrast, and just throughout the movie how they were able to kind of learn from one another.
And that kind of parallels the real story. Philippe was a wealthy businessman. Abdel, I believe he was Moroccan. I might have that detail wrong. But when he was in North Africa, he was always in trouble, and his family finally sent him over. I forget where he was. I guess it was, I don't know if it was Italy, England. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Sent him out of country to kind of get himself together. And in the process, just like Del, he had to find work and ended up becoming this man's home health aide. And as Zenny was describing, they came from completely different worlds, completely different income, life experience, cultural background. Everything was like these two people should never connect, ever. Yeah. But they did. They met each other, and it didn't start off easy. So in the movie, Del, again played by Kevin Hart, part of his parole is that he has to go out, look for a job every day, come back with 3 signatures saying that he did, in fact, go on an interview. So he was going out, but he was half-assing it. He's like, all right, I don't really want this job. Can you sign this piece of paper?
Mm-hmm.
And he tried to do that when he came for the interview with Phil.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the thing is, all of these jobs he was going out to were jobs that a computer at the parole board or unemployment said he would be good at. He didn't see, when you talk about him trying to do things to better himself, he was doing it in context of the struggle that a lot of people leaving prison have to deal with. They have to go back to their old neighborhood. They have to avoid the people and things that got them in trouble. And they're going to have to go in a job marketplace that is like, no, we don't want any ex-cons here.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was in that context. So when he showed up and had to go to a penthouse for an interview, he was like, well, shoot, everybody else in here is dressed like they going to a funeral. I'm not going to get this job. So he's sitting there and he's like, I got to go get my kid. I have to get my kid. I don't have time for this. I've been waiting for an hour. So he just barged into somebody else's interview and was like, look, I just need you to sign this here sheet of paper and I'll be on my way. Just saying I look for the job. That sparked something in Phil.
Mm-hmm.
Whether he saw potential, whether he liked the gumption, he was like, I tell you what, take 24 hours and think about whether you want to do this job or not. Now, mind you, Yvonne was like,
absolutely not. We're not hiring this guy.
He's not even
qualified.
He's barely speaking English. What? He got hired, not knowing what the job paid. And then when he saw what the pay was, ding, 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 things went off. He was like, this can put me where I need to be very quickly.
Yeah.
It'll allow him to take care of his son. It'll allow him to elevate his own life, whatever that looked like. So over time, you see, once he gets hired, and this is the thing, it's a drama, but there's comedy. I don't think you can really have Kevin Hart without a little bit of comedy,
yeah.
Excuse me. So you see as the story progresses that these two, even though they don't seem like they have anything in common, they find out that they have quite a bit in common. And they meet each other in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Like with Aretha Franklin.
Even the part, I think one of my favorite parts too of the movie was when he was really trying to, they started to connect about business, because it was kind of like, I feel like Philip was seeing potential in Del with business. Mm-hmm. So he would kind of question him and say, okay, well, what business endeavor do you want to do? Or like, what ideas do you have? What's your niche? What's going to be the thing that kind of makes your business pop? And what are you going to get into? And he was basically just telling him all this stuff. He said he's going to come out. He's going to do an app about, selling weed or something. And then I forget what the other thing was. But then when he got to, I guess, seeing all the art that Philip had around the house and stuff, and then seeing that, oh, wow, this painting of a square cost that much money. I could do that, and, it's not a big deal.
Right.
So, when he went off and created his own artwork, he was working on this for a while. Mm-hmm. He went and worked on his own artwork and showed it, he showcased it in the house.
He took down a real expensive painting and put his painting up.
And what I thought was so funny was everybody was like, ugh, this is horrible.
Everyone in the house was like, not sure about
this is not gonna work. And it was so funny when they had a party at the house. The friend of Philip that he wasn't really that favorable with, or he didn't really like him that much.
It was a neighbor.
Yeah, it was
you live here, I live here, whatever.
Yeah, and he was always kind of trying to tell him, oh, that guy Del, he's bad news, and you shouldn't have him around here.
Did you see he has a record?
Yeah, like
we
it was
don't
kind
want
of
people
like
that in the building.
yeah, he was just
Yeah.
being like that annoying neighbor.
He was a
And
Karen.
you know, he came to the house and he sees this painting. He's like, "Who did this?" And he was so intrigued and
He's
was
like,
like,
"Is it a Banksy?"
yeah, like he was very excited about this painting. And he was like, "Well, you know, I can't really say too much about the artist, but you know, it's going for about this price." And when he saw,
He said, "I'm probably gonna auction it off."
yeah, like
Yeah, and then the neighbor was like, "Wait, you're gonna sell it? I want first dibs." He was like, "This looks like pricey."
and it was like literally $50,000 later. Like it's just like.
But my thing, they had Afro pics on
I
it.
thought it was so funny.
I cracked up because he really had an attitude about it. He was like, "Listen, if he's gonna pay this much for a picture of some different colored squares, I can give him different colored something."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that was pretty funny. There were some other funny parts in it, but I think what I noticed, what I saw, and I loved about the way the story was told, you saw them teaching each other lessons.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in the case of Phil, he was constantly challenging Del. So it's like, you don't think you can do this job. I think you might be the perfect person
To do this
for the job. You are the personality that I need around here. And Del really was, you know, in his own very street way. Like, he was like, "I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nurse. I don't know how to get you out of the bed properly to put you in your chair or any of that. I don't know how to change a catheter, but, you know, it's a job and I'm going to do it."
And honestly, even towards, like, I'm going to say probably the climax of the movie, you kind of start to realize what an impact Del had in the household, you know.
Everyone loosened up.
Yeah, like, everybody was impacted in that house by Del and his
Right.
actions and what he brought to the table.
Even Yvonne, because Yvonne, as soon as he came in, she was like, you don't belong here. You got 3 strikes. And she kept
adamant.
her eye out on those strikes. But Phil covered for him.
Mm-hmm.
Phil covered for him. Phil was adamant that he was going to keep Del there.
Yeah.
By the end, there was a situation, I'm not going to get into what it was. There was a situation that had Phil push everybody away. And so Del was gone. The physical therapist, what's her name?
Her name was
Maya, I think it was.
Yeah.
Yvonne was gone. They brought in a new home health aide for him.
Mm-hmm.
And he just sank back even worse than he was when Del met him. He wasn't shaven. He just didn't have the will to do much of anything. And Maya was still there because
I think PT. She was still his PT person.
She wasn't one of the live-in people.
But like Yvonne, Del.
I think he said the housekeeper.
Yeah,
cook,
they all.
Everybody just kind of left.
Mm-hmm.
And so Maya asked Del to come back. She's like, "He's not doing well. He needs you." And so he said, "All right, I'll go see him." And he walks in and Phil just has a full beard, looking like sandpaper, just rough. And he said, "All right, Phil, we're going on a road trip." And he went ahead and planned and took him upstate New York to, I don't know, resort. I guess you can call it a resort.
Mm-hmm.
And he took him paragliding. Now, paragliding is how Phil ended up paraplegic because he didn't direct his sail the right way and ended up tumbling in. So this was, again, another lesson. You know, it was a thing that was like, I'm doing this as a friend. I'm trying to get you out of your shell. But everything that Del did seemed to be a form of therapy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that very tough love, parental kind of
And honestly,
therapy.
it was weird. It's like, as I was watching it, I kind of felt like they had this father and son kind of dynamic. Like,
Mm-hmm.
even though I know they're not related, it was just
Yeah.
kind of like they were seriously kind of like pinging off of each other in that way. Like,
Right. And really that type of interaction is what kept Phil going. It made him shift from I don't want to be here to you know what? Life isn't so bad
mm-hmm.
kind of thing. So, one of the things that they bonded on was music.
Mm-hmm.
And Del kept telling Phil, man, what is this messy? Because Phil, you know, he had to listen to opera and he had it top of the volume blasting. And, you know, Del was like, man, if you want to elevate, you got to get music that feeds your soul. You need the queen, Aretha Franklin. And Phil was like, no, Aretha can sing, but no, I don't want that. And again, Phil can't use his hands, so he can't stop much of anything. Del took advantage of that and flipped on some Aretha Franklin. And Phil was just like, damn, I guess I just gotta. So at the end, and I promise this isn't a spoiler, you know, they bonded, connected over opera music and, of course, Del's love of soul. And in the end, as they were driving up? Yeah, they were driving up.
Yeah.
Phil put on Aretha Franklin singing, what was it again? Nessun. See, now I gotta go look for it. Nessun Dorma, which was one of the songs that they went to an opera and it was performed, and I think it was performed by a black opera singer.
Yeah, it was like the way that Philip described it, or he mentioned it, was that she sang that because she was filling in for somebody else that was supposed to sing the song.
She was filling in for Pavarotti at an award show when he fell ill. So that's the recording that he played. Del didn't know about that. And so his first time hearing it, he was kind of shocked, like,
it's 2 in 1.
Right. It's like, whoa, we both get something out of this kind of thing. But even at the opera, when he saw the black opera singer singing it, that was the first time in the whole performance where he was on the edge of his seat because he saw someone that looks like him engaging in something that was not part of the world that he came from. But again, overall, this is a great movie. In the real story, the real life, Phil and Del, they're still friends.
Mm-hmm.
Abdel doesn't work for him anymore. Eventually, he left that employment, went on to do something else. But those two are still very good friends to this day. This is a feel-good movie based on a real story that had a happy ending. So in this case, it's like the happy ending isn't made up or embellished. And probably the only thing that I kind of looked at it and was like, I mean, could they have done this with someone of Arabic descent? Descent. Excuse me, I cannot talk. Could they have done this with someone? But even this, and also the French version, The Untouchables, they went for white character and black man to represent how opposite they were.
I honestly think to an American audience that just made the most sense because it's basically, it was just like two worlds colliding. Now in Europe, in the European world, what you're saying might have made more sense. But to an American audience, I feel like it like makes more sense to do.
But even in the European version, it was a black man that played it. Omar Sy played Abdel. So it's like, you know, it's interesting. I ain't mad about it. It's interesting that when you start talking about differences, that the filmmakers went for literal black and white for the representation of just the vast difference between the two.
I don't know. I really enjoyed the whole movie. I'm actually mad at myself that I didn't watch it years ago when it actually came out, because I was seeing it all over the place. People were saying, "Oh yeah, this is Kevin Hart's first real like dramatic role, whatever." So I think he did an excellent job with it too. Like he still kept his like comedic self in it, but it was kind of like you also saw that side of him that was like, wow, he's actually really serious and he's doing a really good job with range. This. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But you know, I really enjoyed the film. I felt like I don't know, I felt like I learned something from it a little bit too. And I also kind of feel like this is a really, really good movie just to watch if you just need some type of like uplifting. Yeah, like I just felt like it was a really good film. And then the only part I didn't like was the ending. I was really sad because I'm like, I wanted to see like, you know how at the end of movies they'll have snippets and they'll have like pictures of like what the characters were doing. Like we didn't get any of that. It was just like
the story rest.
Yeah, it was like literally the ending was them going paragliding and that was it. Like I was just kind of like, okay.
Well, you know what? You were talking about it earlier, how throughout the film, Del had read Phil's book on finance and business, and he told Phil about it, and they got to talking about, okay, what kind of business do you want to get into? And towards the end, and this is not the end of the movie, but towards the end, you see Del working like on mechanics of a wheelchair, which is what he did while he was working for Phil. He was constantly trying to pimp his wheelchair. And so you see him at this other facility where he's kind of managing a group of people who are doing that very thing. But it wasn't clear whether that was a business he started or a business he transitioned to. Because, again, remember, he got all that money for his painting. Plus, he went from making nothing to what, about $8,000 a month?
Yeah, because he was getting paid... He was getting paid like $2,000 a week, yeah.
A little more than $2,000.
And then I think one time he gave him like, well, didn't he give him like or no, I'm thinking about when he sold the painting. That's what I was thinking about. When he sold the painting, that was
$50,000 off the rip.
I thought he gave him like a bonus or something, but no, that was from.
Heck, that was a bonus because that was a bonus, and that was shade and get back the neighbor, and I loved it.
Me too.
So. Anyway, on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the best, this is a 10. If you haven't watched it, it's on Hulu, it's on Prime, and I think it might be on Tubi also. I think it's on Tubi also. I haven't watched the French version, The Untouchables, but I'm going to go ahead and watch it to see how they frame it. So anyway, that's all we have for you today. We'll be back next Sunday with another movie to discuss. I got a list. I promise I got a list. Another movie to discuss. We'll announce it in the Movies That Move We group. So if you're not signed up, if you haven't subscribed there, go for it. And also, these reviews are posted weekly on our YouTube page. The playlist is called Movies That Move We on the Media That Moves We group. So, again, until next week, like, share, follow, and we'll see you again. Bye.